Hello, sixth graders. Today we're going to be converting between decimals and percents. Super easy concept today, so please watch along. You're going to be able to use a calculator on some of the material. Other parts of the material, I want you to be able to figure out on your own, and you're simply just multiplying by 100, which is pretty awesome, okay? This first one we have 0.47 times 100. Probably wondering, okay, how do I do that? All you have to do is you take a look here. You have 100, you have two zeros. So you're just going to move this decimal two spots. So that equals 47. If you don't believe me, take a look. 100 times 0.47. Let's multiply this. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 1 is 7. I'm going to put a place value holder in here. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 0 is 0. And 4 times 1 is 4. If I add these things up, I got a 0, 7 plus 0 is 7, and we have a 4, 2 decimal spots, move it 2 decimal spots, and I'm stuck with 40. 40 is my answer, or 47, I apologize. 47 is my answer. Let's move on. So I have 0.8 times 100. So I'm going to take this 0.8, I'm going to move this decimal 2 spots to the right because I have 2 zeros. 1, 2. So my answer is 80 for an answer. If you don't believe me, watch closely. So then you do believe me. I have 100 times 0.8. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 0 is 0. 8 times 1 is 8. 1 decimal spot. We'll move the decimal 1 spot. I'm left with 80. Messy looking 80, but it's an 80. Let's keep going. I'm going 0.02 times 100. Now, I'm not going to show my work because it's been super easy and inconvenient and boring for you, so watch very closely. I have 2 zeros. I'm going to move this decimal spot 2 spots to the right. I am left with the number 2 for an answer. But I still think some of you aren't believing me, so I'm going to show you. 100 times 0.02. Watch closely. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 1 is 2. Place value holder. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 1 is 0. I'm going to add these up. 0, 0, 2, 0. 2 numbers after the decimal. 2 numbers after the decimal. I am left with a 2. Perfect. Next number, I have 6.906 times 100. I'm just going to count the 2 zeros in my 100. I'm going to move this decimal 2 spots to the right. So I'm left with 690.6. Next problem. 7.420 times 100. I have 2 numbers, 2 zeros in the 100. I'm going to move this decimal 2 spots to the right. So I'm left with 742.0. I'm going to go back here, and I want you to watch me very closely with these, okay? Actually, I'm going to move on. Rename the decimal as a percent. I have 0.92. I'm going to get 92%. Pretty easy because I have 2 numbers after the decimal. That is my percent. 0.04 would be 4% because 0.40 would be 40%. And guess what? 0.4 also equals 40%. You always do the 2 numbers after the decimal. 2.5, what does that look like as a decimal? This is where kids can get lost or confused. But let's keep in mind, a decimal or a percent, I apologize. What's 2.5 as a percent? Percent is always 2 numbers after the decimal. So what do I do with this 2? Okay. This 2 would be a big 2 out here. Keep watching. This 5 would go here just like our normal, and then we'd have to have a 0. Because we'd have to pretend that this is a 0.5, and we add a 0, so it'd be 50. So your answer is actually 250%. This 2 right here would be in your 200s. Because remember, percents are based out of 100. So 1.5 would equal 150%. Because I have to have 2 numbers after the decimal. So I'm going to ask you, what is 1.0? Well, that's pretty easy. That is 100%. All right. 1.94, this would be 194%. Because if it was just this number, 0.94, it would be 94%. This 1 is our whole number because it's on the left side of this decimal, which makes it 194%. Okay. Now we have some problems left here, and you're going to be asked to be able to put these into a decimal and a percent. And remember I told you previous lessons that we have to be able to convert these denominators into 10, 100, or 1,000 if we can. 7 can't go into 10, 100, 1,000. And what you kids have to realize, which I think many of you forget, is this line in the middle for fractions actually means division. So this problem, 3/7, really means 3 divided by 7. 3 divided by 7. 3 divided by 7 equals a really long number. And I'm going to write the whole number out so you understand how to read this on a calculator. 0.42857142866. You're like, do I have to write that down every single time on the screen? Do you know what, kids, when we're converting fractions to decimals and percents, you sure do not have to write the whole number down. Listen very close. I just got done saying you don't have to write the whole number down. What you do have to write down are the first, if it goes on very long, write down the first 3 numbers after the decimal. I'll repeat that just in case you weren't listening. The first 3 numbers after the decimal. You're going to take a look at these first 2 numbers, and then you have to look over here to the right of the second number. Is this number, which is a really messy 8 in this situation, is it 5 or larger? It is. So this 8 is going to cause this 2 to round up to be 43. So your answer is 43%. Let's look at 4/9. So this means 4 divided by 9. Let's see what that equals. 4 divided by 9 on my calculator. I get a ton of 4s. It's 0.444444. It keeps going on and on and on. But like I said before, on this previous problem, you only have to look at the first 3 numbers after the decimal. Once you do that, you look at the first 2 numbers. We're at 44%. I want to know if this third number will make my number 44% round up to 45% or stay at 44. But since this 4 right here is smaller than 5, I'm going to keep this at 0.44, which means 44% is my answer. Last problem, 7/1. Well, I'm going to type that on my calculator. You're probably wondering why. 7 divided by 1 equals 7. You're probably wondering, what is that as a percent? Well, this is 7 point, remember that's where the decimal is on a whole number, 0.00. You're probably wondering, so is it 7%? It's not 7% because 0.7 equals, I apologize, 0.7 equals 70%. 0.07 equals 7%. So what is 7.0? Yep, you're right. It's 700%. Perfect. Because think about it. If you had a math test, right, and there was one problem on the math test, and you got 7 problems right out of one problem, you're like, how on earth would you do that? That pretty much means you got a 1 out of 1 on the test, plus 6 extra credit points, which means you got a 700% on your little math test. Hopefully this makes sense a little bit, converting fractions to decimals to percents. I look forward to working with you in math today. Good luck.